PIX11 is your local election headquarters, everyone. This morning, we continue round two of our conversation with the candidates in the race for New York City Mayor. Eric Adams, well, he spent more than 2 decades working for both transit police and the NYPD before going on to become a state senator, and now his current role as Brooklyn Borough president. And Mr. Adams now joining me live for this conversation. Good morning to you, Mr. Adams. Good to see you.
As well. Good to see you as well. Thank you.
So I do want to begin, sir, with the big story of the morning, and that is this sharp rise in gun violence, specifically over the weekend. At least 23 people shot, 23 people are dead, the majority of the bloodshed in the Bronx and Brooklyn. Let me first ask you, it's a loaded question here, but what is your plan to curb the surge in violence that we've really seen growing over the pandemic?
No, it's not. It's not a loaded question. Actually, it's the right question. It is something that I have been speaking about on the campaign trail. I'm a little disappointed that my fellow candidates are really ignoring this increase in gun violence. And I believe, number one, we need to immediately reinstitute the plainclothes unit. Policing cannot be simply predictable. You must have an unpredictability to it. And we need to turn it into a unit that's going to specifically target gun violence. And second, we have to stop the flow of guns in our communities, in our city. You see, we do bag checks at the transit system to stop explosive devices. We need to similarly do a bag check of some sort at the Port Authority entranceway to the buildings. We need to really drill in and focus on gun violence because it's going to destroy our COVID comeback.
I've spoken to the commissioner a number of times right here on PIX11, sir. I'm just going to push back a tiny bit because it sounds like what you're saying are things that are already happening, right? They're already trying to get a handle on the guns on the streets. They're already putting police out in neighborhoods where there is an increase in gun violence. Is there more that can be done?
Yes, and you say they're already doing more, and I challenge that, and I'm going to just amplify what I've been saying for some time. Number one, we had the transit system shut down for a period of time. I'm sure you're aware of that. Where were those transit officers? How come we did not deploy those transit officers during the midnight hours to these high crime areas where you see many of the shootings are taking place? And then we need to really lean into our crisis management team. They do an amazing job with retaliatory shootings. And let me tell you something else, Dan. We have a gang crisis in the city. Yeah. There are gang wars, and they are driving our gang violence. We must have precision policing going after those gang crews that are causing a lot of the violence in the city.
You know, and I want to talk about what we've seen play out in the past week, right? Over the past year, tensions with police, not only here locally, but around the country. You're a former police officer. You've seen the inner workings of the NYPD. How do you think that will help you build a better relationship with the public, right? Especially trust when you become mayor, if you become mayor.
That's the magic term, trust. We need to rebuild that trust, and there are many ways we can do it. Number one, we must diversify our police department. Over 30% of our officers reside outside the city of New York. That is not a police department we want. We want our residents here. I will promote my peace officers into the police department after 2 years of service. Overwhelmingly, the numbers of peace officers are from the city, and they are diverse, Black, Brown, and South Asian. Second, as the mayor instituted part of my plan, I would have local community leaders and stakeholders interview their precinct commanders. That's a significant position in the police department, and that would build the trust after looking at the background of that potential precinct commander and looking at his prior records.
And I want to stay on this topic of trust because you have said that the key to police reform is to completely remove something called qualified immunity. And for you at home who may not know, it protects officers from liability under some circumstances. Tell us why you feel that way.
Because it's important to do it, and we should be clear on this. It's not to remove qualified immunity when police officers are taking appropriate actions to save life or to prevent death of someone or serious physical injury. It is when someone takes a reckless action that goes beyond the scope of their duties. And so if a police officer is chasing an armed person and that police officer accidentally shoot an innocent person, that officer should not be open to legal action. He took appropriate action. It is when you see something like a Floyd type case or incident where someone is shot and when it was recklessly done, that's when we should look at removing qualified immunity.
Understood. The other big headline is what's going on underground, right? This lifeline of New York City, of course, is the subways. You're a former transit police officer. You've worked underground, patrolling the subways. We've been reporting, sir, on this rise in violent crime on transit. Just Thursday, 4 transit workers attacked in one day. There's a call now to put more officers in the subway. Is that the answer here?
I think it's a combination of that. I think the officials and union leaders who keep this in mind, their members ride the subway. I ride the subway. We're taking our eye off the ball. I patrolled the subways during the early 80s. I know what this system could look like if we don't regain trust on the subway system. People are afraid to ride our trains. And I believe we need to deploy our officers better. How many times have you went through the system and you see 4 or 5 officers congregating in one location? That's not how you ensure your manpower is deployed correctly.
Okay.
You need to spread them out in the process.
And lastly, sir, I want to get into poll numbers. The most recent poll shows you running behind Andrew Yang, 13% of likely Democratic voters in the upcoming primary. But the big number is that 26% that remains undecided. So the question I'm asking every candidate, how do you plan on winning over those undecided voters and pull them into your corner?
Doing what I've done for all these years, remaining consistent, getting my message out. We have not gone up on air yet. We have not mailed as other candidates have been doing. We believe we are in the right place. And when New Yorkers hear my story and my vision for this city, we're going to see how they respond to it. So we are excited about the next few days. And if we could just get the media to stop treating Andrew Yang as though he's a celebrity and a candidate, I think that you'll hear the message of all the candidates that are running. I think the media made a big mistake with Donald Trump. Let's not make that mistake again and not vetting candidates to see their real mission. This is not standing on salt or just walking around the city playing games. This is a serious job, and it's a serious time for the city of New York.
Well, that's why we here at PIX11 are inviting every candidate, giving you equal time, sir. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Good to see you.
All right, PIX11 is your guide through all the local elections. On our website, you can find the Vital Voters Guide. There are bios and all the candidates for New York City mayor and much more. There's also in-depth information to help you better understand what's called ranked choice voting. We're spending a lot of time explaining this one. Check it out on PIX11.com/New York Elections.